Chapter 23 of Ruth Fielding at the War Front. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Ruth Fielding at the War Front by Alice B. Emerson. The Gardener's Cot. Ruth Fielding thought afterward that Major Marchand must possess the eyes of a cat, and his sense of locality was as highly developed as that of a feline as well. In the midst of the wood, into which they had come out from the German trenches, he discovered a path leading to a tiny hut, which seemed entirely surrounded by a thick brush. He left her waiting for a moment, while he ventured within. Then he came to the door and touched Ruth's sleeve. "I can never know who is waiting for me here," he whispered. "Your brother? No, no. Some day they will suspect these Boches, and they will find my little lodge. You know, Fraulein, the pitcher that too often goes to the well is at last broken." She understood his meaning. At last he would be caught. It was the fate of most spies. He lit a smoky lamp, but it gave light enough for her to see that the hut was all but empty. Must have been a swineherd's cot at a pre-war date. There was a table, a sawed-off log for a chair, a cupboard hanging against the wall, and a heap of straw in a corner for a bed. This he pushed aside until he revealed beneath it a box like a coffin, buried in the dirt floor. Its cover was hinged. From this hidden receptacle he drew forth the complete uniform of a Uhlan lieutenant. "Turn your back for a little, Fraulein," he said softly. "I must make a small change in my toilet." He removed the muddy rubber suit and the helmet, likewise the smock and baggy trousers, like those worn by Nico, the chocolate peddler. In a trice he clothed himself from top to toe as a Uhlan full lieutenant. He stood before the small glass, tacked in the corner, and twirled and stiffened his moustache with pomatum. When he turned and strode before Ruth again, he was the typical haughty martinet who demanded of the rank and file the goose step and right-face salute of the German army. "For your protection, Fraulein," he said, stooping in the box again, "we must make a subaltern of you." "Oh, I could never look like a boy," Ruth objected, shrinking as she saw the second uniform brought to light. "For your protection," he said again. "A girl like you, Fraulein, would not have a chance of a rabbit among these Huns. They are not French," he added dryly. "I will step outside. Make haste, please." He practically commanded her to don the uniform he laid out. Ruth let fall the heavy rubber garment she had worn through the swamp. Then she removed her outer clothing and got into the uniform and into the long polished boots quickly. There was even the swagger cane that young Prussian officers carry. She viewed herself as well as she could in the piece of mirror in the corner. She might have the appearance of a stage soldier, but nobody would ever, for a moment, take her for a man. She strode up and down the hut for several moments, trying to tune her gait to her new character. No easy matter. Finally she went to the door. The lamplight showed her figure boldly in the frame of the doorway. She saw the waiting major start, and he muttered something under his breath. "Am I not all right?" she asked with some trepidation. For once Major Marchand forgot himself. He bowed his stiff military bow with a gesture as though he would kiss her fingertips. "Assuredly, mademoiselle." She drew back for him to enter the hut again. He withdrew from the box under the straw a long military cloak, which he fastened upon Ruth's shoulders. "It will cover the figure, Fraulein. And now a bit of camouflage." From his pocket he drew a leather roll, which, when opened, proved to contain shaving materials and certain toilet requisites. With a camel's hair brush dipped in grease paint, he darkened her lip and her cheekbones just before her eyes, as though the down of immature manhood were sprouting. She again looked at herself in the glass. "I am a boy now," she cried. Major Marchand chuckled as he tumbled the rubber suits and all the other articles into the box, shut the cover, and covered it with the straw. He looked carefully about the hut before they departed, to make sure that no signs of their occupancy of it were left. He even rubbed out faint imprints of Ruth's slippers upon the damp earthen floor of the hut. Putting out the smoky lamp, they left the place. The Frenchman seemed to know the vicinity perfectly. They followed yet another path out of the wood, and came to what was evidently a small inn. There was a noisy party within, caparisoned horses held by orderlies in the yard, and several automobiles under the sheds. "Some of the Crown Prince's wild friends," whispered Major Marchand to Ruth. "We must keep out of their sight, but appear to be members of the party. Remember, you are Sub-Lieutenant Loudon. I am your superior, Lieutenant Gilder. Do not speak if you can help it, Fraulein, and then of the briefest." She nodded, quite understanding his warning. She was alive to the peril she faced, but she felt no panic or fright now that she was in the midst of the adventure. The Major found somebody in authority. An autocar for hire? Surely. A price asked for it, and a driver to Mertz, which staggered Ruth, for her companion agreed with a nod. To be a Prussian lieutenant of the Crown Prince's suite, one must throw money around. In 10 minutes they were under way. As easily as that it was accomplished. Huddled down in her corner of the tonneau, with the cloak wrapped around her, Ruth dozed. It was growing very late, and after her struggle across the swampland between the lines, she was exhausted in body, if not in mind. She awoke suddenly. The car was stopping at a wide gateway, and 2 sentries were approaching to examine their papers. The Frenchman seemed prepared for everything. He had papers for himself and for Sub-Lieutenant Loudon. "Correct, Herr Lieutenant. Pass on." The car entered the private estate, but swiftly sped off into a side road instead of going up to the big house, in the upper windows of which Ruth saw lights, although it was now nearly morning. "Our quarters are in the gardener's cottage," said the Major, loudly, evidently intending the information for the automobile driver's ear. They came to a roomy old cottage. Its windows were dark. The chauffeur stopped before it, and the Major sprang out. "Have a care how you step," he whispered to Ruth, and she made ready to get out of the car without a tumble. The high boots did feel queer on her legs. Her companion was hammering on the door of the cottage with the hilt of his sword. A window opened above. "Lieutenant Gilder and Sub-Lieutenant Loudon billeted here. Make haste and come down," he commanded in his gruffest voice, as the automobile wheeled around in the drive and started back for the gate. In 3 minutes the door was open, but it was dark inside. "Is it thou, my Henri?" whispered a voice. "Allaire." Ruth knew it was the young Count himself. Major Marchand drew her into the tiny hall. There was not much light, but she saw the 2 men greet each other warmly, in true French fashion, with a kiss upon either cheek. End of chapter 23.